Everybody, it's Dan here with Pixel FX. I'm going to do a installation on an FZ-10 3DO. I've already got a main board kind of almost assembled, ready to go. This is one of my older tester boards, so it already actually has the RF port removed. But we will get into everything here. So at this point, let's just dive into the mod. I'm going to go ahead and pull the motherboard out, because the first step we're going to do is mount our HDMI to this and make sure it aligns with this hole. So first, let's get our bag of kits out here, our little goodies. Little thermal pad, don't lose that. I'm going to go ahead and just plug this in, just to keep it out of the way, into the gem. First thing, take your plastic block. We need to remove this little bottom clamp. It just fatigue breaks off, like so. Try and zoom in just a little bit here so you can see better. You can see that this mounts right here in this spot. Grab your M2 screw and your M2 nut. Oops, flip it over. Just hold it in. Now we'll get the shorter in 1.6 screws and the two nuts. And then what we want to do when we mount this, see how there's a little bit of a distance here? We want to be able to have that as low as possible. So you could go closer to the edge. So this is where the HDMI output is. We want it to be pushed back as far as possible. So we're going to flip this board over. You can see our two spots right here. I'm just going to pre-screw these down where I want the board to sit. And as you can see, let's see if we can zoom in a little more. There we go. You can see how I'm all the way down here at this bottom, not up here. So we're just going to pre-thread this all the way down, and then it's going to bottom out, and then I want to keep screwing so the hole is totally opened up. Do that for the other side. Just go all the way to the bottom, screw straight through. These screws are almost like an exact fit for this hole size. Alright, so we bottom that one out. We'll go and unscrew them. Take our back spacer, and we're going to go ahead and put these screws all the way back through. I'm going to try and not cover these up. Okay, I'm going to flip it back over. And we're going to take this piece, and this is going to set directly on top. Like so. And then you're going to take our nuts right here. We're just going to set it on top here. Hold it with my finger. Just flip the board over and screw it down. You'll feel the screw go into the nut, and then just don't over tighten. So one screw in. Let's do the other nut. This one can be a little bit harder to get to, so I'm going to go ahead and just remove that. The nut is stuck inside there, so we're okay. What we're going to do is we're going to put the nut up here. Let's try again here. Take a pair of tweezers here. And really all you gotta do is just hold it with your finger on top, and it'll just self-thread in. Finger's just kind of barely on top, and you'll feel it self-thread. Okay. Now that that's in place, we're gonna slide this back in. Screw it back down. Now if you had the RF port and needed to remove it, a real quick way, if you don't really care about the RF port, a little trick here. Let's see if we can get it back on camera. So you can see the RF port has three ground connections right here. If you take some snippets, you sometimes can snip underneath there, snip that ground off, then you can heat this ground up, pull it up, and then it's easy to pull that off. Just a little trick. Alright, so now we have this off. Let's bring the case back over. Now the factory hole on the FZ-10 may be a little too small. The hole needs to be around 13 millimeters in diameter. This is a factory FZ-10. So I'm going to grab a 13 millimeter drill bit, step bit. And let's zoom out so you guys can see this better. Here's our hole. Our size right now, we're just barely off. So I'm just going to use this 13 millimeter step bit right here. It's going to go really slowly, and I barely removed anything really, honestly. I always recommend using step bits. Normal drill bits will always leave essentially an ovaled hole. So I always recommend using step bits. So here's this hole opened up a little bit. Let's see if it fits in now. Yeah. And there you can see the RF is in place, or the hole's in place. The FZ-1 is a perfect install. You don't need to do any drilling, but the FZ-10 does require a 13 millimeter bit like that. The early Gold Stars 2 also, I think, can have a smaller hole. So yeah. So with that in place now, let's jump to some soldering stuff. Well, I guess we can assemble this little guy first. We're going to have an assembly of the mount for the gem. For the gem, make sure you do your jumper settings. You can see right here. C, D, and E need to be jumped. And K, J, and G need to be jumped. So we're going to take our block, we're going to break it apart. So this is how the mount works for the system. It sits on this arm board right here. It's where the tape target's going to be. And then you're going to have a little leg right here. And so you need to see where the leg hits, make sure it's not sitting on any components. And that's essentially where the target mount will be for the board. Certain kits need a different spacer, a different height spacer. The FZ-10 needs the thicker spacer, so go ahead and include that when you sandwich these together. And so that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take our longer M16 screws, push it through both drill blocks. And grab the M1.6 nuts. Just try and pull those in. Not wanting to go in, so I'm going to this one I don't want to thread in, so I'm just going to push it down. Do the same thing for this one. See, I just pre-press the screws into the holes. And pressed is a loose term. Screw these down. Make sure not to over tighten, just hand tight, finger tight. Okay, you can kind of see more where our mount is going to be. Next step is we're going to solder our 3.3 power board on. This is a small little power board that has kind of a universal setup. It takes 5-volt in on this pad right here, and outputs 3.3 on this pad. This pad is ground, this pad is ground. So depending on your orientation and how you mount this, you can route 5-volt to that, or ground, and vice versa. So this is set up to go okay. So we've got the power board here. This is my target point. This is a 5-volt cap. If you're unsure, you can actually measure the voltage on it, but like most of these are 5-volt that are around here. This one's just convenient. So you can kind of see how it butts up in that aspect, and you can see that this side is ground. So we need to ground this pad and then jump the middle pad to that, because this is going to be +5. You can do that real quick. I usually just kind of pre-jump them. butt this up. I'm going to add some solder to the area. Just dragging what I already put on there. Okay. Now that that's on, we have to check for shorts. If you have a short on this, you will blow a fuse on the system, or there may be other, not, you know, other things we don't want to happen. So let's set our meter to continuity, just so you guys can see my meter right here. I touch them together in continuity. So I'm going to touch ground, top side right here should be ground, bottom side should not. I get a beep and then immediate, so we're okay, no shorts there. Next steps is we're going to go ahead and solder the flex on to the Clio. So let's go ahead and flip views here. Our target installation point is going to be this area of the chip. If you have a cap here, C142, I recommend removing that. You can solder the cable over the top, but it's a lot easier to just pull the cap. Let me get the flex cable out of here. Here's the flex cable. There's a section that says solder this side up. Ignore that. That is completely wrong. So it needs to be on the other side of the mask. Here's where our alignment is going to be. All the way towards the edge. We have a good view here. So you can see, skipping this first pin right here. So this bottom pin is not connected. So with that, I'm going to use some Kester 595T liquid flux here. And just keep it in a little water style bottle. My iron is set at 315. I'm not going to put any solder on my iron yet. We're just going to get the alignment straight down. Hands are a little shaky. Just trying to pull just a little bit of solder up, just to keep contact. You can see I'm still lined up really good over here. Just going to tack these in. You can see this one cap is a little in the way right here, but it's okay. Sorry the exposure is kind of rough on this. Let me see if I can't turn it down real quick. Alright. We're pretty much just going to solder the cable in directly. I'm going pretty fast. Just kind of touching each pin. You can zoom in a little bit more here. And you can really see what's going on. But just a tiny bit of flux. I'm going to try and get some good joints here. And now I'm actually adding quite a bit of solder to the flex. There's a little bridge, we'll be able to probably get rid of that. What we'll do is clean, iron off. Let's put more flux down. Okay, see, this is on a ground pin. Okay, just a couple more things here to clean up. And just a little bit more solder. Just making some nice little fillets. It's not really necessarily totally critical. Ooh, looks nicer. Flip around to this side. And then when I solder this little guy over here, I'm going to make sure to apply some pressure right here. Because right when you touch that tip, it's going to pull away or heat that up. solder, or flux, I mean. And these are the audio lines. Okay. I'm going to do a little quick inspection here. Kind of like the final. Just look over anything that's bridged. Doesn't look like a good connection. Everything looks okay. A couple spots maybe. By a couple of spots I mean just some inconsistent soldering. I think we'll probably add some solder there, but I think we're okay. So it's just going to kind of sit like so. Let me switch views here again. The flex cable's going to work its way up like this. So let's go ahead and grab this guy. While we're here, where this guy's plugged in at, flip that lock up. You can see the blue side is the backer, opposite side is the fingers. You can see the fingers are on this, so backer cord goes towards the top. Just line it in the center, flip it closed. Now we're going to find a replacement for this. So you can see this comes up around, and this is where we're going to get our alignment. I like to align it so this cable stays, what's the word I'm looking for, perpendicular. So I try and get the alignment like that. And so that's essentially what we're looking for. We're looking for the stickiness on the arm chip over here and the alignment of the flex. So now that we have that, I'm going to pull this VHP tape off. Find our alignment again. And make sure that your little nub right here that this is on the board isn't smashing any components. Go over just a hair. Just a bit, as far as we can. And essentially, this how this mechanism works is the heat shield is required to be able to clamp down on this. So I'm going to put our thermal pad on right here. And the heat shield presses down on this. It's going to press down right on this point. And then the gem is going to be permanently secured. So we have a couple more things we got to do. Got to hook up our 3.3 line and hook up some controller lines. Let's go ahead and do the controller lines first. Switch back over. We're going to be soldering 2 wires to the clock and data points there. I'm just going to use some 30 gauge. This is actually not solid core, but solid core is also recommended. I'm going to use the blue and a green line. And then our hookup points on this border down here by the connector. And we're going to solder to these points right here. Just going to pre-tin these. You guys didn't see those very well. Take some wire. I just lost my blue wire, just disappeared on me. I thought it was tacked down. Clearly I need to use tweezers here. Okay. Try to get something a little flatter. Route our wires over here. Around them like this. Route them around like this. Okay. Red wire goes to the bottom here. And however that this cable wants to move around, we'll get it locked in here. Okay. Fold the cable back up. So we need replacement, and then we're gonna hook our 3.3 wire up. It's just a quick little hook up with this leg to our point over here. This. Just a little bit better here. Here we go. Just wanted to be symmetrical. Alright. We're almost ready for a test here. I'm going to take our other cable over here, lift the lock, slide this over, bend the caps out of the way. Just goes in like so. Turn it all the way here. Okay. So one of the first steps is we need to do a little test. So let's go ahead and power up and see what happens. Make sure that you did your continuity checking on your 3.3 and 5 volt regulator. You do not want to have that shorted to ground. If that's shorted to ground, everything will pretty much be damaged. And to reunify, what I mean by that is, if this rail right here is shorted to this rail, then we got a problem. And you can see with the kit now installed, you can see my meter here. When I touch the 5 volt rail and the ground rail, you can see it beeps, but the resistance goes up to where it's at 330 ohm. And so that's totally okay. So if this was like 10 ohm, anything less than 30 ohm is going to be a problem. But it should be around this 300 ohm or so with the gem plugged in. Now that we're here, let's get a cable plugged in. Let's check for some lights. And let's see how the startup process works. The gem light will blink rapidly, and then once it gains lock, should turn solid as long as you have an HDMI signal plugged in. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in a mini HDMI cable here. And then let's turn on and see what we get. Get a power light up here. I get nothing on the gem here. Make sure I'm plugged in all the way. Yeah, just didn't have my cable seated properly. Now we got an LED over here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I didn't have an LED at first. It was just no LED on this. Let's see, do we have? Yes, we do have video. So we have a video feed now from the 3DO, so that is working. You can see we got just a BIOS screen right here. So let's double check a few things. And we'll plug a controller in, and we'll make sure we can open up the OSD and control the gem with it. To open up the OSD, it's going to be L, R, D-pad right, and B. It opens it. Let me pull my view down a little bit so you guys can just see a little bit better. So I'm doing L, R, D right, B. And so now that we're in here, let's go to video. Let's go to system, 3DO settings. Just kind of checking some things. Turn off interpolation for the moment. Alright, let's go to the system, and let's go to the controller, or the debug self-test. Should have hearts for everything. A couple more things that we need to check. We need to make sure audio is working. So I think we'll need a game for that. I don't think the BIOS will have audio hooked up. and then that's we're getting pretty close here to putting the top back on. So let's go ahead and move towards that. Go ahead and turn the console off. Actually, before that, one thing that we can double check the reset works. Do the restart 3DO. Let's get to a pattern somewhere. Confirm my restarts. Yeah. So that works. I'm going to go and depower the system. And then just a few more things we need to button up. We need to install our Wi-Fi antenna. That's just going to press straight down on the IPEX connector. And then we have our actual Wi-Fi antenna itself. It really should be mounted outside of the metal shield. So let's grab the metal shield here. We also can confirm some fitments here. Goes like this. No, it doesn't go like that. It goes like this. And I just kind of I don't really necessarily try and bend the cable. I just kind of let it do its own thing. The HDMI cable here. So as you can see, this heat pad needs to be pressed onto the thermal pad in there. And it should be making contact. When I press down, I can see it indent the thermal pad. Go ahead and mount the Wi-Fi antenna just in this area right here. Or, let's see, this might be a better option for the FZ-1 or FZ-10 here. Come up around and go in the front like this. Essentially, if you do go on the metal shield, it'll still work okay, but you can get better throughput being not next to on a piece of metal. So I'm gonna mount it to the front right here. Let's see if that fits. Yeah, so you can see mounted it just like this. Needs a route around this hole. Go grab the screws for this real quick. Okay, we are back with pretty much everything we need to finish the install here. Goes on top there. Just goes down like that. Let's put a couple quick screws in it. This guy is smashed over here. We don't smash this cable with the shield. It goes down. That's good enough for now, just for testing. Let's drop this guy back on. Put a few screws in here. Let's get more and more over here. Alright, let's throw a game in, Need for Speed. Let's do a quick test here. Now it looks like we're booting up. Yep, everything's looking okay. Make sure the OSD works. Yep, all hearts, so we are good to go. And that's the installation. And here's one last little final look at the HDMI port on the back. Alright everybody, thanks for watching.